Hello everyone, welcome to my Emmerdale channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. The village of Emmerdale had never felt so tense. Clouds hung low over the valley, casting an eerie shadow on the quaint cottages that usually hummed with laughter and daily life. But today, a storm brewed, not in the sky, but in the hearts of its residents. Word had spread like wildfire. Graham and Joe were facing off in a confrontation that could change everything. For weeks, tension had been simmering between the two men. Graham, once the village's unassuming friend and neighbor, had been pushed to the edge by Joe's relentless schemes. Joe, always calculated and cool under pressure, had a plan that could upend the lives of everyone in Emmerdale. Friends whispered in corners, uncertain who would come out on top and who might lose everything. On that fateful evening, the village seemed to hold its breath. The local pub was unusually quiet, with patrons peering out the windows, watching the approaching storm. A gust of wind rattled the panes as Graham stormed down the cobbled street, his jaw tight, eyes burning with determination. Across the road, Joe leaned casually against his car, a faint smirk playing on his lips, as if he had been expecting this very moment. "You shouldn't have pushed me this far, Joe," Graham spat, his voice shaking with controlled anger. Joe tilted his head, eyes glinting in the dim streetlight. "Oh, Graham, you've got no idea what's coming. You always underestimate me." The air between them crackled with tension. Passers-by stopped to watch, sensing that this wasn't just another quarrel, it was the culmination of weeks of deceit, betrayal, and mounting fear. Graham's hand tightened around the envelope in his pocket. It was the proof that could expose Joe's hidden schemes once and for all. But Joe, ever the strategist, had anticipated such a move. He stepped forward, blocking Graham's path. "Give it up," Joe said calmly, though his eyes betrayed the slightest flicker of unease. "You don't want to do this." "I have no choice," Graham replied, the words leaving his lips like a gunshot in the tense silence. The confrontation escalated quickly. In a blur of motion, Graham lunged forward, shoving Joe back against the hood of his car. The envelope flew into the air, spinning before landing in the gutter. Both men froze for a second, their gazes locked. It was more than a physical struggle, it was a battle of wits, pride, and desperation. Suddenly, the first crack of thunder echoed over the valley. Rain began to pour, soaking their clothes and turning the street into a slippery battlefield. Villagers peeked from behind curtains, hearts pounding as their familiar streets transformed into a scene straight out of a thriller. Joe tried to regain control, attempting to wrestle the upper hand, but Graham's determination was relentless. Every punch, every shove carried the weight of weeks of tension and frustration. Neither man would back down. Then, in a moment that made hearts stop, the envelope slipped from the gutter and was swept into the storm drain by the rushing water. Both men froze, realizing that the evidence, the key to ending this battle, was now out of reach. The struggle paused, and silence fell between them, punctuated only by the sound of the rain. Joe, breathing heavily, straightened his jacket and looked at Graham with a mixture of respect and something else, a grudging acknowledgement of Graham's tenacity. "You're tougher than I thought," he admitted. Graham's shoulders sagged, exhaustion mingling with relief. "And you're as dangerous as they said," he replied. For a moment, the two men simply stood there, soaked to the bone, locked in a stalemate. The villagers, who had been holding their breath, finally exhaled. The battle wasn't over, perhaps it never would be, but there was a shift, a momentary truce born out of mutual recognition of the other's strength. As the storm subsided and the first rays of sunlight pierced through the clouds, Graham and Joe turned and walked in opposite directions. The envelope was gone, but the village would remember this night forever. The night two titans collided and left Emmerdale shaken to its core. Fans would soon flood social media with heartbreak and speculation. Who would truly emerge victorious? Could Joe's schemes rise again, or had Graham finally gained the upper hand? One thing was certain: Emmerdale would never be the same.